Hey there, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Theory Forge, episode 19, Year of Everquest Next. Our prompt man is Velix tonight, and he's going to bring you through all the awesome things that we'll be talking about over the next hour and a half.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Back again for another week, another new episode in the new year. So it's always exciting, especially after everything that happened with this franchise and Landmark last year. It's really exciting to see stuff finally coming together. Everybody got to be in Landmark and play with some of the new updates, and we got to see a little bit more of what we'll be seeing in EverQuest next, some of the mobs and stuff like that. So we're really excited for this week's episode. We have a special guest this week with Kremchek is on this week, and we've got one of our new regular hosts in Poro down in the bottom, and we will be talking about everything EverQuest next. That's literally the topic of the show today. We're going to be talking about what 2015 might bring, and also what some of our predictions might be for SOE Live and other things like that. So, Kremchek, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself for anybody that might not know you, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, well, I'm Kremchek, and I'm a full-time streamer all throughout the day, basically. Neuro just got done saying I stream too much. I don't know if that's an insult or he's actually worried about my health, but probably an insult. But yeah, that's just twitch.tv/Kremchek, and you can find me there. I soon will be doing primarily H1Z1, and I've been doing Landmark and a crap load of other stuff, and really hyped up for EverQuest next. And next week, actually on Thursday, I'll be starting my 96-hour H1Z1 stream, so that'll be pretty boss.
It's a three-person rotation.
It's a three-person rotation. I'm not gonna die. Don't worry. I'm not that epic, and I'm not gonna die.
I don't know, Krem. You need to do something to set yourself. Put yourself on a pedestal. I think that's a great way. I'll sit there with an IV and replace it for you every time you start to drift off.
I've been known to do that on stream.
Nah, you keep it sexy.
And for those also who haven't seen Poro a whole lot, she's brand new to the show. She was on just in the last week's show, but Poro, if you want to give your quick spiel too for people that are seeing you for the first time, maybe.
Well, I streamed Landmark for a while, when it went into closed beta especially, and I had a lot of fun with that. I haven't been able to do it recently because of school and not having a real schedule. But I stream every once in a while, and I'm a overly active Twitter person, and I give my weird opinions on this show sometimes. That's pretty much everything relevant about me, I guess.
Awesome. Well, today, obviously, EverQuest Next, I already talked about, is going to be our topic, and I know one of the first things coming up, especially since we're getting back into it, there wasn't a workshop show episode this week for Landmark. They're supposed to be booting that up, I believe, the week of the 21st, which will be the first patch in Landmark, but we should see a new race coming, because the Ogre Workshop closed. They had the Ogre competition in Landmark, which is, very relevant to EverQuest Next. It's literally for EverQuest Next, so we're going to be looking at a new race, and I know we've had Dwarves on, they've lost many times. I'm not sure if they're going to make another attempt this time. It should be interesting. So we'll start with Kremchek, and we'll kind of go around in a circle. What races is everyone maybe expecting to see, maybe hoping to see? What do you want to see next in the next workshop?
Well, I'm a huge dwarf fan. I am a dwarf. I am the orange dwarf. So that's kind of what I want to see. There's two different thoughts about that. I want the dwarf to have all of the tools and blah blah blah, so it'll be the best of all the races. So it would be nice if it was last, but I also want it now. So I would say if not dwarf, I would go for something like halfling or something like that.
Halfling.
I love me some halfling.
What about you, Poro?
Hey, don't get angry about halflings.
I'm not angry.
They use halfling because that way you don't have to get sued for using hobbit. That's exactly why it came around.
My heart is at the same rate it was before you mentioned halfling. I just maybe threw up a little bit in my mouth is all.
Oh, dang.
Just call them not hobbits then. Poro, how about you?
Well, I got into EverQuest Next in the first place because I saw how cool Landmark was. I didn't really play the other EverQuest games that much, so I don't know too much about the lore. But I usually like elves and things like that, and I know we had dark elves already, but I'm assuming there's still like light elves, or high elves, I should say. And I don't know what other types of things there are in EverQuest stuff. Halflings are boring. I just like the woods and stuff. Like, remember we were talking about the dryads before? I like that kind of things, so I'm hoping we do that. But I feel really bad for the dwarves. I remember when Omid was like, the next time you don't vote for them, they're not going to be in the game. And I was like, please.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Ixar, the lizard people.
Yeah.
That would be cool, I guess. I don't know. I'm not going to be a lizard, though.
It's interesting that you mentioned high elves, because I think by far out of all the races, that would probably, just in my head from what I remember from previous EverQuest, that would probably be the toughest architecture to accomplish with the tools, just because of how many curves there are and different crazy slopes and things like that. So that would be a really interesting one to see. I'm wondering if the landmark tools are far enough that we could do that. I'm sure they are, but it would be a really difficult race to do. I'm definitely excited to see that one too.
Yeah, I would think if that one's going to happen, it's going to be a little bit later, but I would like to see it. I think that's going to be my favorite kind of architecture, totally aside from like what kind of character I would want to play.
Well, we actually had a really big high elf build. It was like took like a month and a half, I think, of like 6 people, different people working on it. People who are pretty profound builders, like Draconius and Zeiss and Coin and Cleavage. Fugazi stopped by. Poro, was it you who donated a sculpture to it? Anyway,
No.
it was cool though, but it was very difficult. I remember we made the whole thing on a 45-degree angle, and that was like the week after the week we were going to finish it. They released the 45-degree angle tool, so pretty much we smacked our heads against the desk for that. But I'm actually really excited. Well, I want to give like a little bit of some context to my previous statements about the halflings. It's not that I don't like halflings. I'm an MMO player. You guys might have seen us around. I like to go and spend as much time as I can. I'll do the most repetitive things to get the most unique and cool items, visual items in the game. And then I just like to stand around the major cities and dance and like jump around everybody. That's what I do. That's my thing. And
So you're a troll.
I mean, of course, I'm a troll. That was never out of the question. But the thing to note is that I'm a troll who likes big shoulder. Like I like big shoulder pads. You know, I like things that look very prominent and that have a lot to them. And with the halflings, with gnomes in like World of Warcraft, with a lot of the smaller races, you just don't have as much detail in the gear. You can't appreciate the gear as much because it's on a smaller scale, of course. So, you know, just me with like my flashiness, and I like looking at my character and feeling like he looks cool. So I have nothing against the halfling like race itself. I have nothing against their culture. I don't even know much about the halfling culture from EverQuest, but if I did, I would think that I would be really interested in the Ixar, like you were saying. I think that they look cool. I've seen some pictures of them like as a little samurai lizard, and that really interested me. There's a picture on Google floating around of that if you guys want to try to find it out there. And then I really want to know, now this isn't a playable race, but I want to know more about dragons and their architecture. I want to know what the dragons like lairs are going to look like. I want to know what their places where they're going to like be. I want to see what that's going to look like. And that of course has nothing to do, like I said, with playable races, but I'm most excited for that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting once we get through all these workshops of the playable races, and then they start moving into like orcs. If they do that, I'm not sure if they plan on doing that, but that would be kind of cool to see some of the evil races, the unplayable races, if we get to participate in some of that architecture. Some of the dragon caverns and things like that would be really fun to take part in. What about you, Neuro? What is the race you're expecting or hoping to see in the next workshop?
Expecting 3 strikes in your in rule. They just do dwarves and don't have a vote.
Thank you.
Hoping it's only going to be them or another small race. We've built normal races, we built tall races, we haven't built a small race yet, and I'm really On one hand, I'm excited for the challenge. On the other hand, I'm excited for the challenge of the builders, as we have no way to shrink our characters right now. Building something that's really meant for, a smaller race, I could see there being some smaller tunnels and passageways that are like, you must be this height or shorter to get through here, otherwise it's going to be super awkward and you'll just get your butt kicked by the people that actually can get through there. Like, some sort of defensive tunnels and stuff. So that's whatever it is, I'm hoping that we see small races, and I'm hoping that it's something that they actually have to acknowledge, and there'll be a difference between buildings meant for all races to access versus small race only access that none of the medium and large races are really meant to actually be able to get into.
I forgot
Like-
about the frog locks.
Oh yeah, frog locks,
should say that.
Ratonga.
Like frog.
Warrior.
Yeah, I'm really like bummed that they haven't came out with any clarification on which races they plan on doing. Some of those side races, like the Fae, the Froglocks, the gnomes have got to be in, but they still yet also haven't been confirmed. So it'd be nice for them to say, hey, we're not doing them for launch, but we plan on them being unlockable or something to that effect, just so we can, our hearts can be answered. So I don't know. I loved Froglocks. I thought they were one of the best animated races, like in the original EverQuest, even though they were a later edition. So
I mean, I imagine that all the races that we're going to find on that painting are going to be races that we're going to be able to play, right? Except for maybe the dragons. You know which one I'm talking about? It's actually on the stream right now. It's
the main one. Yeah, there should be. I would expect most of those races to be playable. The only one I would think maybe not would be the kobold and of course the dragon. But other than that, I would say all those should be playable races.
I'm sorry, I want to actually clarify right now. You're right. I was thinking before when I was saying the Ixar, I didn't mean the Ixar. I meant the kobolds. I was talking about the small race that looked like a small lizard samurai. That's what I was referring to, not the Ixar. It just clicked with me.
Yeah, that actually is a perfect lead-in, because the same issue with like the dwarf ogre poll when they did that. Like, as much as I love the underground stuff, like there's no one campaigning harder for underground claims and stuff in Landmark for me as a Dark Elf fan, but Ixar is just such an exotic, like they plan on having a really exotic style, and I'm just so curious to see that, more so than, we typically know kind of what we're going to get with dwarves for the most part. It's a very classic fantasy race that's done a lot. Ixar are kind of a unique race, and to some extent, I mean, there are similar races in Dungeons and Dragons that have that, the Yuan-Ti and the, gosh, I can't even think of all the names, but all the weird reptilian races in Dungeons and Dragons. But the Ixar, that was a really unique thing I liked about EverQuest Next. When they had added them in with that expansion, there hadn't really been any games to my knowledge that had a playable race that was, like a lizard type race. So that was really cool. I was really excited to see that.
I thought UNT were the natives in Unreal.
They could have been. I know in Dungeons and Dragons they were like a snake-like race back, and they were never playable. They were just an enemy type race. But
cool.
So yeah, that's kind of my hope. I'm hoping for the Ixar just to see some of that exotic kind of. I think they said the architecture would resemble kind of some ziggurat cross between like Persian and like Mayan, Aztec, Native American type architecture. So
they're the ones that are going to have the pagodas that have the spikes on the ends, the rows of spikes, and the curved upturned ends on it. Those were the things that we were being told not to do with the ogre build, because that is specifically Ixar. So if that's any indication of kind of some of the stuff we're going to be seeing.
Yeah, that's what makes it most interesting to me. It's just a combination of so many unique architectures between extreme Eastern, Native American, and this Babylonian, ziggurat, megalithic structure type thing. That's really interesting to me. I don't know. I'm a huge fan of history, so but those are my thoughts. And everybody, is there any other thoughts you had on the workshops that we've seen so far or that we're moving into?
I think the next one is the judging results, isn't it?
Yeah, we should see the results from the Ogre Workshop come on the next show. I believe that's what they're going to announce. And probably at the end they'll announce the next poll. Or, do the, like Nero said, the 3 strikes. And you're in, just give it to the dwarves.
I don't think they should do that. I think we should just keep having votes. Because, like, I don't know. If people don't want to do it, they don't want to do it.
It has to get done,
I
though.
already do want to do it.
Well, I think the dwarf right now it's just a running joke to make it lose. So
True.
they
If there's
should
anything
just
we've
put it
learned,
off. We just shouldn't do dwarf because it's always going to lose no matter what. So just put it off to the end and just let people actually pick what they want at this point, not just whatever's against dwarf.
It's almost like the developers can pick what race they want everyone to work on next by just putting it and dwarves in the vault.
Right.
the only thing, Krem, like they can't really say like go do whatever race you want because we don't know the races that are going to be in the game for sure. First of all, second of all, they don't want. I don't think that they're ready to release that information to us, even close to it. I'm sure. I do wonder. Like most MMOs that I've played, you have like around 8 races to choose from, 4 to 8 usually.
They said 8.
They did say 8. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think they've actually revealed all 8.
That's what I would think. Then
going back through,
yeah.
I think the only one that we're
was
still not sure about was like Faye for the 8th one.
I thought was 8. I knew 8 was for classes, but they said 8 for races too.
I believe they said 8 for races as well.
I don't remember that.
Well, part of the reason is there's no good or evil races, so they don't have to do any weird splitting anymore. It's just you are what you are, and you're going to be evil or good depending on how you, the player, plays it, which I love that. So many games miss that so badly.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that aspect of it. It's something that you saw in the lore, and we won't get into lore because I will just diverge this whole show. But yeah, I'm excited for that. It really changes the way that people are going to be able to drive the storylines in the world because that leads us kind of into our next topic. I had on the outline here for Storybricks AI coming to Landmark and giving us a glimpse into Everquest next. This movement back towards story and the ability for each race to kind of play a different role. Like no race is pegged into like, hey, this is what you're going to do in the world. Players are going to get to pick a race and either work for or against different goals that might be within their race, and it's going to feel natural. It's not going to feel abnormal to be a dark elf and want to be a kind of a good guy or something. The typical the Drizzt clone is the funny joke that everybody makes, but like that type of thing is going to be natural because you're going to have reasons in the backstory for that character making sense, and all races kind of have that capability. So I'm really excited to see that just as a storyteller, from the storyteller standpoint. I love that. So
I would love if they put a rule that dark elves as a race never dual wield.
I mean, well, why would that be?
The fan rage. Felix knows what I'm talking about.
Dude, I felt like my skin boil as you said that. I was like, how dare he?
Why is this the thing? Is this something? Is this like inside, or should we reveal it here on Theory Forge? I kind of want to know.
I don't know. It's not necessarily. It's just like it's typical. You see dark elves. They're just these dual wielding badasses.
Well, wasn't Drizzt? Yeah, he was the one that used the dual wield, being the most popular dark elf in existence. Having that sort of a rule, that would just the fanboy rage would just be, so palatable.
Well, speaking about this really quick, with story, we talked about this, Velox, on Loregasm, but I don't think we've ever talked about it on Theory Forge. Actually, I brought it up to the devs once, and I don't think they liked the question. But my question, I guess, like, how do you guys feel about like having lords kind of play into like the characters' abilities and like dual wielding, like the things that they can carry? Like, do you think that lore should tie into character items and like weaponry and stuff like that at all?
How about you, Krem? Yeah.
Why shouldn't it? It definitely should.
I mean, they haven't really, like, in a lot of other. I mean, in WoW, like, and I always go back to WoW because it's the most popular MMO to this day. But what they did was have it so, okay, an orc can have this list of like weapons. This can have this list of weapons, and you just go to a guy and like learn it, and it's just boring, and there's no story behind it, and you don't even really like. Sometimes I don't even know why. Like, why can't a I'm trying to like remember some of the specific ones. Like, why can't a orc, let's say, use a crossbow? I don't know if that's for sure, but that's how ridiculous it is. It's like an orc seems like it should be able to use a crossbow. Like, they don't have too many restrictions. Like, can they not? Like, are their muscles, are their biceps like so big that they just can't like fucking get the shot? I don't know.
Their fingers can't get in the trigger, maybe.
But I think that
Rexar like an orc ogre.
What? A Rexar? That's a good point. Yeah, I guess.
This is a crossbow.
Yeah, but in the point is that in the game there's like these ridiculous like things that like, oh, this race can't use this for no reason. But I feel like in Everquest Next, I really want to see like gnome warriors not being able to like wield a broadsword, because I feel like a gnome warrior, how the fuck is a gnome warrior going to wield a broadsword? Like a broadsword to a gnome.
A really tiny broadsword.
It would be a one-handed sword. It would be like
Not for a gnome.
Yeah, like the letter opener in the Hobbit.
Yeah, Sting. The two-handed hobbit sword, one hand for most everyone else.
Well, yeah, what would be cool if you were a gnome or whatever, then what would normally be a one-handed sword would be a two-handed sword for you, and then you could have like a different style one-handed sword, and that would just be something that other players or other races don't use.
Could be a one-handed sword.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That would be kind of interesting.
Hope you're listening, SOE.
Well, likewise, I wouldn't really see ogres using daggers that much. I mean, I guess if there's something that they're trying to hit that's next to them, why would they reach for a weapon that could potentially be disarmed and used against them when they can probably just, if it's small enough, just reach over and grab it by the head and just, throw it somewhere, crush its skull, or whatever.
The thing about classes or races with size is that they're going to more than likely be using something that's going to keep somebody at length. So if they have a sword, it's going to be a longer sword, because it's going to make sure that nothing smaller than them can even get to them. So them using daggers just doesn't make sense. But like Gio said, if they can make it make sense, then they should do it. If they can't make it make sense, then they shouldn't.
I feel like we're thinking about this way too hard, because I don't think they're going to really have many restrictions on stuff like that for race. I guess you could discuss like whether you think that they should, but I don't think that they're going to do it.
An ogre rogue tiptoeing around.
They talk actually when I asked the devs this question, I asked this question to Dave and Steve, and they responded by saying that it's a huge internal debate, that they actually don't know what they want. And it's like, so I mean, it very well, if there's anything that I think we should, that like we can potentially like sway, or that is really on the fence, that's like one of the biggest things, I think, because based on what they specifically said to us.
All right, well, I would rather have the ability to do anything I want, no matter how much sense it doesn't make, than to have restrictions and then have it be like what you said, where there's no real reason for it. It's just there because they wanted to have differences between the races, but there's no other justification. Like, I guess it'd be interesting if we could come up with interesting reasons for it, but if we can't, then I'd rather just let everybody do everything. And like, I played Guild Wars 2 for a while, and there were no restrictions like that. Like, every race could be everything, and that seemed to turn out okay. Like, I don't think it's anti-fun.
Maybe no restrictions, but limitations in some areas. Like if you're a rogue and you're trying to play an ogre, you're an ogre trying to play a rogue rather, you would only be able to use stealth effectively against large and bigger races. So you can sneak up on a dragon just as well as something smaller and potentially be a better dragon assassin, because you can actually do the damage you need to be significant, but you're not going to sneak up on a gnome. It's going to hear you coming. It's going to be gone before you get close.
Aren't they just good at hearing things coming, though?
Maybe. I mean, they are close to the ground.
I feel like if we get that complex with it, though, people are going to get really confused and angry and annoyed.
I'd be willing to skip like 3 showers to write a book about this. I'm just saying.
Do it, man. Do it.
I would love to see, because of the way they want to do abilities, with the limited ability set and the ability to cross-class things, I would love to see specific racial abilities, like maybe the larger races like Ogre and Karen have the ability to maul somebody and just, grab them and toss them or something like that. I would love to see, those kind of things. That would be pretty interesting and unique.
Okay, Karens being the race that you can actually ride on when they go on all fours, like being a very special racial thing. It makes me almost think of what is it? Milking the cow friends in Project Gorgon. When your friend gets turned into a cow and you can ask for permission to milk them or whatever.
Do you see how now, like, if you're a vegetarian, your milk is higher quality?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's in-game economy right there. See, we're
I like
making.
stuff like that. It's got like utility to it. Like I've been playing a lot of Skyrim, and I've been doing this character that's very sneaky. So I'm always using illusion. So sometimes if you walking down the road and a giant bear comes and wants to tear your face off, and I can just be like, "Yo, bear, calm down," and he does, and it's great. And I have like command animal because I'm a wood elf. I really like things like that aren't always so directly related to combat. Like there's another spell called telekinesis, and I can just like toss things around with my mind, and I think it's great.
When I was saying before though, which I think the best visual representation would be something like somebody said in chat, which was an ogre hitbox versus a gnome hitbox, right? An ogre hitbox, an ogre is gonna obviously be bigger. Probably should have a bigger hitbox, or it makes sense that it would. A gnome would have a smaller hitbox. So in my mind, like it makes sense, like racially, that and almost like you can almost just say factually that a ogre in the fantasy setting would be able to take a brutal beating than a gnome would, just based on the fact of like bone density. So
I've got a counter to that though. A gnome has a lower surface area, so if they're both caught in the same size explosion, the ogre's going to get more damage from it because there's just more surface area exposed.
Right. Well, I mean, that with that being said, that's like, I don't think that has to do with like the hitbox size, right? Because you're still, and the point is that I actually agree with you. I think that those kinds of things don't need to be taken into consideration like that deeply, but there is a level of depth that I would like to see. Like I would like to see maybe like a gnome have more dexterity or the ability to evade easier than an ogre, but then therefore to be more squishy and have a smaller hitbox, whereas an ogre is just maybe runs slower, but you can still like maybe you can spec your ogre to be like a super athlete, like runner type thing.
Marathon ogre.
The marathon ogre, exactly.
Yeah. Then do you think they should just restrict what classes you're allowed to be if you're a certain race? Like if a class is inherently sneaky, then you shouldn't be able to be enormous, or if they're inherently like tanky.
Not that you should restrict it, but it should. There, like somebody said in chat, I actually like the idea too. More of like less about restricting, more about giving advantages to the ones who are more likely to succeed in that scenario. So like a gnome would be sneakier based on a lot of like real factors than an ogre. So a gnome should have the ability to really take advantage of that, and it's complicated. It's why a game like League of Legends or like a MOBA is a lot easier to balance than an MMO, because in a game like League of Legends, you can build the lore for a character, you can build the character's tool set, and then you can put them in the world. With an MMO, you give somebody a race, and then they have the options to pick whatever they want, and you can't really tailor those things together. But I would love to see a way to do that that's still balanced. I don't know if it's possible. That's why we're theorizing on it.
Well, going back to what Geo and Neuro have said, that the ogre would possibly be able to take more damage, but Neuro says that it would be damaged over a larger area. Both of those things are true, but if you think about it like an egg, if you try to grab it with your fist, you can't break it. If you try to grab it with 2 fingers, you're just going to break right through. So it's possible that it's still going to take the same amount of damage to kill. If you got that pinpoint accuracy, it's probably going to be easier to kill the ogre because you have a larger surface area to puncture rather than killing a gnome where you won't actually be able to hit him as easily.
So
we're talking about like a large area explosives versus a shaped charge at this point, like magic missile dynamics here, and I actually like that's a discussion I do want to have because that's pretty cool. But yeah, I see what you're saying for sure.
We've totally gone off the topic, huh, Val?
Yeah, it's all right though. It's good. It's good conversation.
It is good.
But I do want to say though that like as an overarching statement to kind of like for everybody to keep in mind while we're theory crafting here, one of the big emphasis is like, oh man, that's a mouthful of a word. Multiple emphasis of the development team is that they don't want, you know, there to be a lot of min-maxing. They don't want that to, and they're creating systems to kind of avoid that, so that way nobody feels pressured to, you know, try and pigeonhole themselves in something that's going to be the most effective for, you know, situation A or whatever. You're going to have every character is going to have every option open that they've unlocked throughout their progression, and they're not going to have too many types of things that are going to make people feel like, oh, I'm not going to play that because, you know, it's not going to be good. Like, they want people to be able to play their play style, so I would love to see, like what you guys are talking about, as much, you know, realism and immersion that they can do within that, you know, without causing the min-max issues, because I do kind of hate the min-max issues, because I'm really competitive, and, you know, I want to be the best at a certain thing or something, but I also like to play my character, you know, true to itself, so I don't know, I'm in between both of them, so I don't really know what I believe.
How do you get around min-maxing, though?
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible. There's always going to be a min-maxing.
They're encouraging that we play what we want to play rather than playing for maximum effectiveness. And I think part of that's going to be that your ability to advance as a character isn't just your ability to get physically more badass and get equipped with badass gear, but also to socially advance and become more respected out in the world and have things offered to you that otherwise would never have been possible. So there's, I think, a lot of different layers to advancement and stuff that if somebody's trying to min-max their stats, sure, they might be a badass, but they're a badass that's not doing meaningful content.
Why does that limit them from doing meaningful content just because they're min-maxing them?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is if they're spending all of their time working on min-maxing, that's an all-day job. Like, there's so many build opportunities and possibilities that just honing down on 10 flavor of the month builds is probably going to be really, really difficult.
Yeah, I mean,
at some point you just Google it and it takes 30 minutes.
But I mean, if you think about it, look at Landmark already. Landmark is supposed to have a combat system that's a fraction of what EverQuest Next is going to be, and like already, like unless you spend time like studying all the different combinations, like already just the tiny, you know, 15 of each, you know, hand, armor, head, and weapon, like it's just unbelievable the amount of combinations you get already. So it's once they go into EverQuest Next and you're looking at, you know, like all the different areas in typical MMO equipment, you know, having all these different interactions and stuff, it's going to be like just mind-boggling. People are really just going to be, you know, trying to aim towards what they want to play rather than look. I don't even think min-maxing is going to be like a thing. And like people might min-max a type of playstyle. Like I want to be a fire mage. There's probably a way to min-max a fire mage, but you're not going to be able to min-max an area damage caster because there's just so many ways you can do it. You know what I mean? So I mean, I think it's going to be a totally different beast, something we haven't really seen before done in MMOs, just because of the complexity and the way that they're creating interactions between abilities, so that when people are in a group, you know, your abilities are going to interact with one another, kind of like a, I don't know, a good way to describe it, but you know, like with the ice and the warrior, you know, changing the terrain and accomplishing goals and tasks, it's gonna make people kind of move towards just doing what they want to do and doing with what their group needs, you know, rather than saying, oh, this is the best tank Shadow Knight I can, or whatever. Right. You know, it's just totally different.
I don't know, I still feel like eventually there will be, you know, the best caster. Maybe not at first, but eventually that will happen once everything is figured out. Once
it's all about balance.
It's inevitable. It's inevitably going to happen.
Here's the big difference between a game like EverQuest Next and a game like World of Warcraft. EverQuest Next is going to have skill-based combat. Skill-based combat will add way more difficulty to the game that min-maxing almost will become way less relevant to
That's
the
true.
average player. It will become relevant to the top tier, the guys who already have this shit mastered, where the skill doesn't matter. What matters is the math. But
Yeah.
in most games that are skill based that heavily, it really becomes about the player's skill, like increasing his skill level.
That's true.
I want to ask you guys something, because as we were talking about this, Neuro brought something up, and you were talking about like how this, the ways that this is going to be different than like a traditional MMO with min-maxing specifically. I think back to like my days in WoW. I was jumping around Orgrimmar and Ironforge quite a bit, but I also occasionally would whip out a spreadsheet and try to figure out how to do the most damage in like Warsung Gulch and whatever. And so my question is that I really like that, and I know a lot of people really like that. That was for a game like World of Warcraft. Now, I think that it's fair to say this is my question to you guys. I think it's fair to say that a lot of games try to emulate World of Warcraft. A lot of MMOs come out, and the first thing that I always see on like YouTube channels is like, this is the WoW killer, or this game sucks and will never beat WoW. That's like every comment ever. So I don't think I've ever seen this asked, but like, do you guys think that EverQuest Next will be the WoW killer?
No, there's no such thing as any game that kills any other game. The only people that can kill a game is the company that makes the game, or possibly, very, very rarely, but possibly the community being so horrible and so toxic, and also being such a low-spending community that it just makes no sense to keep the game going. So essentially, it's the company's decision, but kind of hand-forced by the community. Something I did want to touch on there, in the mention of World of Warcraft, and this is a slight tangent, but kind of wrapping up one of the things that I said earlier, it wasn't the fact that I was a Tauren Shaman engineer that made me such a badass in PvP. It was the fact that I had all of the top raid loot because we were in a PvP raiding guild, and I had like the Blackwing Mace. I was the first person in my guild to have it, so my lightning bolts were just, ridiculous. So that and all the other tools and gadgets I had, I was an unstoppable force on the battlefield. But it was a combination of the skill, a combination of the ability that I actually was physically able to coordinate all of that, but also because I had the gear. Now extrapolating that into EverQuest Next, if you're just focusing on min-maxing, you just ground up all of the effort and stuff to get all the classes unlocked, and that's great, but dude who's just been adventuring as a knight for the past 6 months, he's completed massive story quests. He's been in some shit. He's got some legendary equipment that those min-maxers are going like, oh my god, if I had that, oh my god. And they're just crunching numbers over items they'll never have.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
So I feel
really
like
good.
the whole idea of min-maxing is going to be completely different in EverQuest Next, though, because the choices you have are different. Like, you're not
Yes.
adding stat points to things, you're just kind of like picking what kind of class combination you want and then what kind of gear you want, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think what Geo says, or sorry, Viz Gaming says.
Call me whatever you like, baby.
Viz Geo, I think what Viz Geo says is what makes the most sense. When it's only going to matter if you're equal skill when it comes to EverQuest Next. In a lot of games, that's not the case, but I think in EverQuest Next it will be the case. Going back to the original question, though, or the latest question, we've talked about this a lot, myself and Neuro, when it comes to H1Z1 and DayZ. I agree with exactly what he said. There's nothing can kill a game except the game. The game itself. One game coming out is never, ever, ever going to kill another game, because those people are so diehard in that game already. Even if a better game comes out, they're still not going to, the majority are still not going to migrate over to the new game. It just doesn't matter how good the game is. It's never going to kill another game.
When you guys were talking, I had this thought when just the last few moments, but basically there's this analogy that I just thought of, and it's like, the reason that EverQuest Next won't be a WoW killer and can't be is because it's the same way that Defense of the Ancients was not a Warcraft 3 killer. It was a modded map that caused and spawned a new genre of game. And I think EverQuest Next is essentially, a little mod like we saw of Minecraft, on this voxel-based thing taken into multiplayer, famedom. It's this thing taken into a whole new genre. I don't even think EverQuest Next you know, they're going to label it as an MMO because it fits the now very large generic MMO archetype that, you know, is used on everything, you know, mobile games, all kinds of things call their things MMOs now. I mean, just being at 10 Ton Hammer, the emails we get from PR and stuff about their, you know, new MMO, and it's like some little mobile device game that you can play with, you know, a handful of other players. It's not an MMO, the typical MMO moniker. But anyways, the point I'm making is that WoW, none of EverQuest Next won't be a WoW killer because it's going to be a new genre. I think, even though they're both going to be under the MMO category, it's not going to be this linear theme park traditional MMO type that WoW is, and WoW will always dominate because they really answered the bell or the call as far as what players wanted for that type of a game. You know, I think World of Warcraft is a better game today than EverQuest because it answers a certain type of player, you know, answers a certain type of call, and EverQuest Next is going to be totally different.
Well, I want to clarify though on a couple of things. Because I just want us to do this because of course this is the question that we're all answering, and I want to kind of give some context to what I meant, because I understand from a very analytical and intelligent perspective, you guys are absolutely right. But of course, like I had mentioned before, I'm talking about people who chat on YouTube, and these people are very intelligent, guys, very intelligent. But the point is that you like what I guess what they usually mean by the WoW killer is not that obviously the game is gonna die, but just that it will fill that void in your heart where the last game left off. Because I know that there are, like, League of Legends is the last game that did it for me, where I got into the game brand new, played it, and I immediately felt something, this spark, this desire to play this game that I had never felt for a game before, even less than for like World of Warcraft, which World of Warcraft was the game for me before that. So now I'm saying, of course it won't kill WoW. WoW won't die and never, you know, like turn to ashes. But essentially, Vel and I have talked about this. We actually coined the term MMVR, of it being like a sort of virtual reality type game, EverQuest Next, as opposed to what WoW is, which is more of like an MMO. But it still has one of the most common like ancestors in like this sort of MMO genre, which is the concept of like it being largely community based. Like a game like League of Legends, I log in, I have my friends list, but my interactions with my friends list is pretty like boring. It's more UI than gameplay. With a game like EverQuest Next, World of Warcraft, old EverQuests, any of the other MMOs that have ever existed, there's always this sort of like social glue that holds the game together, and that's what makes it. I think that's what would make EverQuest Next in the same category, I think, as a game like World of Warcraft or the other games. So, do you in that regard? For me, like I think I've heard this said by the guys who made ESO. We know that went pretty poorly, but their theory was, MMOs, the glue for an MMO is the community. If the community is strong, then the game will be strong, and it doesn't always have to be that way for like more indie games, or for like more single player games like Call of Duty, things like that. So, in a game where community is going to be king, according to professionals, do you think that the community of people who have played and been inspired by games like EverQuest 1, by games like World of Warcraft, by games like Lord of the Rings Online, I don't know, like these sort of like social, put your life into the game type games, do you think that EverQuest Next will be that next game to fill that void for players?
Sure hope so.
Sure hope so. Yeah.
It can be. I mean, basically what you're saying is, you know, is it going to be the new lover? You know, like, is it going to be like people fall in love with a game and they play it, and MMOs are, you know, a much different beast, because when somebody falls in love with a game like that is the only game they play pretty much. So it's a lot different thing, and I definitely think EverQuest Next has the potential to be, you know, any MMO player's new love. Like, it definitely has the potential. So in that instance, it could be a WoW killer, you know, in the fact that a lot of players that are playing WoW, for lack of other better things out there, might say, oh, this is the game that really answers what I want out of a game, and they might migrate over. So to that effect, yes, it could be a WoW killer, but in the instance of them being totally different games and totally different genres, you know, it's not ever gonna officially be a WoW killer. It might just spell the end of, you know, this first gen type of MMOs. It might be the MMO, you know, the, what is it? I guess not really first gen, but like this second gen MMO killer. It might kill the old genre off, you know, to some extent. Those games will always be around. You
That's
know,
even bigger than a WoW killer, though. So that's like the WoW killer plus friends. This is like
you don't want to get inside my brain. It's a scary.
I think that EverQuest Next was definitely a Titan killer, so that it has that going for it.
Exactly. I mean, that's the crazy thing. Like, what they're doing has the potential to change the way, because basically when you log into an MMO, what are you there for? Like, you're coming. Some people come for PvP. Very few people. Most people come into an MMO for the world, for the story, for the big, massive PvE and the cooperative gameplay. And it's all dealing with AI. It's all interacting with, you know, mobs and different story and NPCs. Like, that's what MMOs, what makes them different. And you're doing it with a bunch of other people. In EverQuest Next, there's not a better game, you know, assuming that they complete everything that their goals are, there's not going to be a better game with better character, story, and, you know, AI than EverQuest Next. And that's going to wipe out an it's almost like, you know, a MUD. It's like how modern MMOs kind of like destroyed MUDs. Sure, MUDs still exist. There are some people that still play them. There's still a few that have survived, but by and large, EverQuest, Ultima Online, all these games wiped MUDs out because it was taking the same type of gameplay and using better technology to accomplish the goal that people wanted. And I think that's what EverQuest Next has the potential to be. You know, it all depends on how, you know, good the AI feels and how it operates and if it feels fluid. But either way, even if they don't accomplish it, like, they're setting the bar higher is basically what they're doing. Whether they don't do it, some other company will eventually do it, and that will be the next gen, and it will wipe out, you know, kind of what the current MMO experience is, like this story-based linear thing. That's going to go away because this new technological bar is being set, and it's no longer a graphical thing. Now it's about mechanics. Like, are we able to bring some of these old text-based MUD mechanics of, you know, really freedom to express your character? Can we bring that into modern graphical technology? And that's kind of this transition I think EverQuest Next is going in. But I'm going to stop talking because I don't even know where I'm going with this.
Well, Poro, I want to ask Poro, like, what was your first MMO experience like?
Oh man, I guess it was RuneScape when I was like 10 years old.
I mean, did you feel that, like what I was explaining before, did you feel that for RuneScape? Like, did you have this desire to like caress RuneScape into like your submission of your life?
Yeah, kind of. Because the thing was, like, when I'm 10 years old and first getting into RuneScape, like, not very long after it switched from the craft graphics, it was, like, very mysterious. Because
crap graphics.
in a lot of ways, it's like an emulation of, like, real medieval life where you have to, like, go chop down the logs and, like, make yourself some food on the spit, you know? So, and I had never played anything like that, so I didn't know what to expect. So, I don't know. I only really stopped playing it probably like 6 or 7 years later. So
yeah. And was there a game after that you played that had that same effect for you, like where you felt it?
I played Fly for Fun for a while, but I don't know if that counts. I think I've had such a love-hate relationship with MMOs. The only one I ever really probably enjoyed was RuneScape, honestly. Because all the other ones, I would spend a little time with them and be like, yeah, I totally want to like this. And I would try to get involved in like little guild communities and stuff, and it just didn't ever really click, and I would quit, not really having accomplished anything except wasting a lot of time.
So does anybody here like an MMO that they played after their first one more than the first MMO that they ever played? That's what I want to know. Is your favorite MMO the first one you've ever played?
For me, my favorite experience was EverQuest, and my favorite MMO right now is WoW. And I won't go back to playing EverQuest because right now I feel that WoW is the better game. But WoW has never made me feel like EverQuest made me feel.
What about you, Vel?
For me, I mean, Mine was a mixed bag because when I first got into it, it was like I was equally into Ultima Online and World of Warcraft. I mean, not World of Warcraft and EverQuest because they kind of came out around the same time and they were different. They were different games, you know. They were similar aspects, but they were totally different. And each one had something that was just totally amazing, you know, in the fact that it was just this whole new world. It was this new type of game because I was a MUD player. Like I loved MUDs and I was into text-based role playing. Like I loved how these games kind of brought that to life. You're going into a world and you can actually see the people you're interacting with. It was pretty amazing. You know, it was like almost like all this text-based role play come to life. But you know, it did have its limitations. And so for me, I don't know if I even ever really fell in love. I would say maybe EverQuest was the one, but it honestly still no game has satisfied true like text-based role-playing. My love's there, you know, which is back a generation. So, and I'm almost thinking that, you know, like maybe that's why I'm so excited about EverQuest next, because some of these things that you can't have in these second gen MMOs that existed in first gen MUD type MMOs, like that some of that's possibly coming back. So I look at, you know, my first love being MUDs, and I don't know if, you know, any modern MMO has, you know, given me that, oh, I love this game so much. Like, sure, I get addicted for a month or so, but it doesn't last.
It's actually what I'm afraid of for EverQuest next going forward, that nothing's ever going to recapture how I felt about EverQuest originally. And like no MMO is ever going to be that, like that special.
Right.
And it's just that.
But you, Neuro,
I guess it was my second MMO. My first one was Ultima Online, which I really appreciate. I enjoyed the time that I played it until we got to the point where my brother and I kind of were like, well, we can keep on playing. It doesn't really seem like there's much more progress. And it's like, want to build a castle and maintain it. And, you know, it doesn't make the game pay for itself. Like, what, I was 12 or 13 at the time, so I didn't really have, you know, meaningful gainful income where I could, you know, have that. And we also needed to get a new hard drive because our gig hard drive was mostly filled by the 650 megabyte install of Ultima Online, so the family wasn't too happy about that either. So I really liked a lot of it. There were also a lot of things I didn't like, and there were the things that I guess it was meant to be such an RPG, such a, you know, a character in a world playing a role, that it was basically intentional for people to screw with each other and troll each other, which really reduces the fun factor of the game if you don't like that sort of stuff. And eventually, after being a victim of it enough times, I would just start finding people who think they're logging off safely behind the shadow of a building, and instead access their bag, steal the deed for their boat. I can't use it because I don't know where they put their boat down the last time, so I can't re-access that position. So it's basically just removing a boat from the world, or finding someone that's, you know, left their boat for a moment, and just grabbing it and sailing off with it. And hey, buddy, see you later. You know, it was a great game for trolling people, but in terms of being like, you know, comparable to today's games, not even. And then the other thing is, I think about like more modern stuff like Realm of the Mad God, completely a game that lacks depth compared to Ultima Online, but fun as hell. It's an 85 person server MMO. You know, persistent world until you defeat the first phase and get into the Mad God's lair, which ends that world, and then a new world pops up. It's a really cool system, actually. I like it a lot.
I like that game.
But the second MMO that I really played, like real deal played for a while, was actually when I did have gainful employment, and that was PlanetSide 1. And PlanetSide 1 was amazing. Many PlanetSide 1 players agree with me that PlanetSide 2 does not meet our expectations for what we wanted from it, and no other MMO first-person shooter has come even close to being as good as PlanetSide 1. There was some other game, it was like RNF Online. RF is like romance and fantasy or whatever. Some poorly localized game from Asia that the gameplay itself was terrible. It was so bad that I had no qualms saying to the community manager who said about not using profanity, well, you can just ban my fucking account because I'm done playing this piece of shit. And you know, it basically, I've wanted a real deal MMO first person shooter ever since PlanetSide 1 that captures the essence of it, the quality of it, the things that made it good. PlanetSide 2, I appreciate a lot of what it is. It did not do that. It did not do that in so many ways. They completely changed so many systems. They made a class system where previously there wasn't a class system. They made it that you can only be relevant on the front lines where previously you could backhack bases and a small covert team could actually be meaningful. So all the things that made the original good, the second one they faltered on, and they slowly started getting some of those systems back in. Then they eventually put the implant system back in. Again, PlanetSide 2, they got it wrong. It feels like a cash grab that punishes casual players and supports really hardcore players. And, you know, in PlanetSide 1, it was a perfect system. If they had just done that, it would have been so much better, and it would have been a lot more, you know, fun and engaging and enjoyable. But so that's the first MMO that I played, another MMO of that style, and it just wasn't even close.
Interesting.
Comparatively, Diablo 1 to Diablo 2, I loved Diablo 2 as an upgrade to Diablo 1. I had no problem saying, well, Diablo 1 was fun for what it was, but having to load up Casa Sombra's 1.4 cheats just so I could anti-cheat anybody trying to cheat and come after me, that's ridiculous. I'd rather play Diablo 2. And add some more features, and I enjoyed it. But then we eventually, I let somebody borrow it, and then he went and served like 2-4 years in the military and came back, and he'd lost the disc, so I don't even have my old account. So, oh well. But yeah, I'll stop.
With all those thoughts, you know, all these thoughts people have just had, you know, kind of reminiscing your first MMO, what you want, what you expect. Obviously, you know, we're all talking about EverQuest Next because it seems to matter to us. You know, this is super early in development. The fact that we have a show dedicated to it, you know, and partially Landmark as well, is like, you know, it must mean that this game you're hoping to fulfill, maybe to be that next MMO love or something to that effect. So my question to everybody is, and we can start with Krem and we'll work our way around. Geo, we'll just go counterclockwise and do it that way. But what do you hope to see out of EverQuest Next this year, you know, as they add new systems? And what do you want them to, what do you want it to be like, I guess?
We're getting Swoops hardcore.
No, it's not Swoops. It's Velix.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Babies.
Swoops has been
okay.
banished.
So Sam, like, what do you want? What do you want to see for EverQuest Next? What do you? I mean, this year I think we're going to see a lot of that gameplay. You know, a lot of the facets that we're all hoping for start to emerge. You know, even though we won't be able to play it maybe this year, what do you want to see?
Well, I hope to play it this year. I want to have some kind of gameplay available at SOE Live. I'm not expecting anything before then, of course, but even if it's just a 10-minute demo, just put it in our hands. Let us play it. Let us see how it feels. You know, let us play around with some classes. That's really all I care about. I mean, I don't know, you know, we don't know right now enough about what they're doing to necessarily start demanding things. So really, I just want to kind of feel it, you know?
Feel it. Just reach out and touch it, Krem. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, I want to caress it.
Geo, what are your thoughts?
I know. I'm like stalling because answering this question is really painful. It's painful because there's so many things to hope for that I feel like I don't want to have to hope for. I want to I want to write them off as like it's going to happen, be positive, right? I feel like a majority of the first thing that pops in my mind is like where is my hope needed? Or where do I feel like I need to put as much hope as I can in the MMO market, which when we know that it's declining at an unprecedented rate, like MMOs are becoming completely unviable, like MMORPGs are becoming unviable as a game type in the mass market of gaming. This is economically sound facts. Now, my hope is that for the first time in 10 years for me, a company makes a game. They say what they're going to do. They make the game and it comes out how they anticipate it. They don't allow people to discourage them, and they don't allow people to, they let the haters hate and the ain'ters ain't. Shout reference to all of you guys who have seen the interview. And they just allow themselves to make the game that they know that they should make. And then that players, instead of being the kinds of players that I've seen that have ruined a lot of the MMOs that exist today, instead of them kind of like really trolling, being so negative, like really getting on the case of the developers, really just getting into the game and enjoying it and realizing, like, I didn't make this game. I didn't, I might be paying a little bit for it, but these people went out of their way. They have experience, they have knowledge, they're giving me a game, and I want to pay for it, and I want to help support their efforts to continue to make a better game that I can enjoy. Go into it with a positive mind. Go into it looking to try to improve the game, the community, most importantly. Make sure that everybody is on the same page. Be friendly, be helpful. Those are the things that I hope for more than any in-game features, more than any sort of requests for, character models, whatever. I just fuck all that. I want my first love back, which is social gaming.
You're such a visionary. It's just the hope. It makes my heart warm. Neuro.
Didn't mean to puke on you, Neuro.
If you can follow that up, Neuro, somehow go ahead.
Whether or not we actually get a chance to play EverQuest Next this year, I'm not too worried about. I have a feeling we will, but if we don't, I'm fine with that, and I'm fine with it on the same grounds as I've been fine with H1Z1 taking as long. It's better that we get something that's representative of full, complete loop cycle, whatever it's called, game loop, with EverQuest Next when we first get our hands on it, than seeing anything less. So that's why I'm not too worried about that. But what I do want to see, I bet you could probably hear my cat outside the door there, generated or initiated player content. In fact, both of them is what I want to see. And I want to kind of touch on both. By generated content, I mean just that, like what we're doing with the contests and Landmark, where the players are the ones generating the things, the content, the quests, the interactions that will then go into EverQuest Next and be a part of that game world. On top of that, I want to see a big emphasis on how content will actually be initiated by players. What things that we can do as an individual, as a group, as two individuals not knowing that we're working towards some objective or working against each other towards the same objective on the same side of things. That's what I'm really excited for. That person that does go and stop by that little hick farmer town and talk to everybody and learn about some horrible thing that they go off and discover and make some giant ripple in the world. That's the sort of stuff that excites me, or if that's the sort of thing that we won't actually see, that it actually would need multiple people to visit that area for the people to get more used to talking about the subject before someone finally reveals, oh yeah, we found like a crack of hell just about a mile north of here. Yeah. I doubt anybody's going to talk like that in EverQuest Next. If they are, I volunteer wholeheartedly, free of charge, to do voice acting for it.
Nice.
I'm gonna just take a real quick bio. I'll be right back.
Poro, what are your hopes for this game for 2015 or for the longer future?
Okay, so I have a lot of things. I guess the overarching thing is I want to not feel like I'm grinding towards something all the time, because I felt like that in every MMO I've played pretty much, and then if I get there, it's boring when I get there. And if I don't get there, it's because it was boring to get there. And I don't think that's going to happen because of the way the whole living story thing is set up. If any of you have played Guild Wars 2, they had a living story thing, but all that would happen is like every once in a while there's a new story thing and there's like new quests and new like stuff to collect. But with this, it's going to be, I guess, more story driven and you can actually influence what's going on. So I feel like there's always going to be a reason to come back and like accomplish something that's not always like increasing numbers. You know, I don't like that stuff. I really want to be able to look pretty, which sounds dumb, but I really enjoy customization stuff, so I'm looking forward to that, dressing. Wow, there's a lot of things.
Yeah, following you up, like, it's almost going to be like a repeat, because I feel the same way. Like, I don't enjoy the grind of MMOs. Like, I come into MMOs because it's a really unique world that I can explore and always find something new, you know. And I too, like, when I get in, you know, as a storytelling mindset, as a writer, I want to create a character and, you know, live out that character's life in a sense. And the typical MMO of today doesn't really let you do that. You know, it's all about, you know, some games let you customize how you look, but for the most part, those games don't allow you to be the character or create the character that you want to be. You're not doing anything in the world other than, you know, like piling stuff onto yourself, you know, getting collections, getting achievements, and that stuff is just, you know, not why I play MMOs. I play MMOs for the social interaction, for the ability to be a part of a narrative and this crazy fantasy world or sci-fi that I've never seen before, you know. And what I want, I don't know if it, maybe because I'm a parent now with a bunch of kids running in and stuff, like, I've become more patient. So for me, like, I don't expect EverQuest Next to be at all playable. I don't even necessarily want it to be playable this year. I mean, sure, deep down I do, but I don't think the game that I want could be playable this year from where they're at right now, because I honestly just want story bricks this year. Like, if they can get story bricks working the way that they've, you know, talked about, and kind of the way we've theory crafted a little bit based on what developers have said, you know, if they can get this to be a working, functioning thing where you can log in, you can go and interact with an NPC, and what you choose to do changes the way all the rest of the NPCs are going to interact with you, and actually helps influence them on their own drives and goals. Like, if they can do that, I don't care, honestly, what else they achieve this year. Like, if they can get that part done, to me, that's like the core element of EverQuest Next that is valuable to me. Of course, you know, I'm competitive. I want the PvP stuff and some really unique combat, strategic combat and stuff like that, and the adventure. I mean, I'd love to explore this new version of Norath geographically, but for me, the story has to be right. Like, they have to get what they've said about story bricks. They have to nail that, because if they don't, I feel like what I talked about earlier in the show, this, you know, raising the bar and changing, you know, kind of wiping out the old version of MMOs like current MMOs did for MUDs. I don't think that's possible unless you get the AI right, unless you get these NPCs to actually act dynamically in the world based on player interaction with them, because that's really what makes this game different, and what makes, you know, creates player on player, like, players create the content for each other through that. If they don't get that right, then it's still going to be all about what new rallying call did they release, you know, what new content did they make. If they don't get the NPCs right, there's no way for players to be the content for each other in this game, and to me, that's the most valuable thing. So I want to see that this year more than anything else. I don't care if the game's not ready. Like, I want to see story bricks, you know, even if we only see a fraction of it in Landmark. That's, you know, that's what I want to see this year. I want to see them accomplish that, because to me, that's the biggest milestone this game can and could ever maybe achieve. I don't know. That might be a little dramatic, but that's what I think.
Well, it is really always nice to get together with. I mean, obviously we theorize about a lot of things on the show here, but it's just nice to just have everybody pour their hearts out about what they want to see out of gaming. Because the cool, you know, one of the coolest things, and one of the reasons why I'm even driven to MMOs, like you guys all said, with the social side of it, is like, for the first time as an adult, I'm seeing like the culmination of years and years of people gaming, and now we're adults, it's like transferring into real life, where like I could go out to a bar and wear my EverQuest t-shirt, and like a dude in a business suit the other day literally looked at me and he's like, "Hey, nice shirt, man." Like, you would never expect that, you know, before. And it's nice to be able to have this community that spans outside of in the game. You know, we're here, we do Twitch, we have groups of people who hang out, we love to talk, we're passionate about what we do. I feel like MMOs really I feel like without MMOs, this kind of discussion and like really like social togetherness wouldn't exist in gaming. In my opinion, obviously.
Fair. That's a fair statement, I think. I mean, really, the kind of community we've seen arise from Landmark and early EverQuest Next speculation, like, it's been great. I mean, I had a great time at SOE Live, not just because of what I was there to see in the whole event, but just because of the people. I mean, my best memories were not what I saw sitting in each different little hour deal. Like, it's what I experienced at the Heart Bar and going out walking around with people. Like, it's the other people. That's what I
didn't even realize you remembered that, honestly, Val.
I remember some of it, but yeah, I mean, like, that's what. And it's so kind of taking one of the topics. I mean, I talked about our EverQuest Next hopes for 2015, but I kind of actually wanted to take that a step further and looking into SOE Live this year, which is the big Sony event of the year, and we're going to kind of see Landmark stuff and EverQuest Next stuff there. This is an early prediction type thing. What types of things do you guys actually predict to see them show at SOE Live 2015? What do you think is actually going to exist when we reattend this year?
Well, something that at least that they're going to be able to play in great detail, but maybe not us. Maybe us.
Yeah. I think they're going to be able to show us as much of EverQuest Next as they showed us of Landmark when it was revealed.
I'm honestly wondering if they're going to actually downplay the EverQuest Next a little bit this year just because they know it's going to be all H1Z1 hype up in the place. You remember how loud and rowdy the PlanetSide 2 people were? Well, imagine that with H1Z1 people, but it's half the room, not like 10%.
Right. Do you think that they could go another year of downplaying EverQuest Next though? Because they've already gone last year they downplayed EverQuest Next, and I don't think they could do another one without a riot.
The only way I could see them downplaying EQ for one more year is if at next SOE Live they're announcing launch immediately following like SOE Live. They're like, hey, guess what? EverQuest Next is going to be done, and in 2 months or 3 months or whatever, by Christmas time of 2016, it's up. That's the only way I could see it, but I mean, that's really a really patient approach. I know there have been people that have been waiting for EQ3 or whatever it is for years, so it's tough to, it's gonna be tough. I mean, I would like to see them, like, what was it Neuro was saying, I would like to see them give us something that's feature complete. If it comes later, that's okay, as long as they get what they're promising to do right, instead of what other development companies have done and cut corners to get the game out and ship it when they need to ship it or whatever. Which it's going to be an interesting thing because Dave Georgeson has a great reputation of always shipping games, and this is a different beast because it's so different and so innovative. Can you really push it, the same way you would push other games that are working on mechanics developers are familiar with using? So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I honestly have no idea what to expect from this SOE Live. I think we'll see, I think we'll see Storybricks come out and be fully revealed, and them have a lot more in-game footage, and then possibly having, a full show of different races and, snapshots of gameplay of different classes fighting, like a lot of them. I think we'll see that, but I don't think they might announce like an early closed beta date for EverQuest Next at this SOE Live at the most.
Or
but
an alpha.
I think that's really, well, see, I think we're in the alpha. I think Landmark is the alpha to an extent. So I see them only talking about a closed beta, and if they do talk about it, it's going to be like end of this year closed beta. This is my honest to gut feelings.
Can I jump on that, Vel, a little bit? Because you said that you think it's the alpha, and I agree with you, but I think that there's like some clarifications because like I've been thinking about this for myself for a long time, and we've had these conversations before. Like, while I think that they're running the EverQuest Next beta or alpha concept in a different way. Of course, guys, remember this is all speculation. I do know a lot about the game, but this is just speculation. So I imagine that they're taking, like in alpha, I mean, based on what I've heard of alpha, because I've never like, besides Landmark, ever really participated in one. I imagine alpha is filled with testing, core functionalities, essentially what Landmark is almost like right now. It almost still feels like what I've heard, like what I would expect from an alpha is not feature complete, still trying a lot of things out. So I feel like what they're doing is Landmark is the feature completion part for EverQuest Next. They are going to complete and fully functional and make sure that all of the features will be functional, and then rearrange them inside of EverQuest Next. And then in EverQuest Next, we may even still have an alpha, but it'll be like just making sure that now that all the features have been rearranged and put together to function in this new way, maybe that like is everything smooth and running correctly. And then I feel like it'll be short. So
I feel like at the most, or they're gonna call it an alpha, whatever we decide that it's going to be, just to give themselves more time. Either way. Because if you call it an alpha, then you still have to get to go through closed beta, and if you start with closed beta, we're expecting open beta within 3 to 6 months. If you start with alpha, we're expecting closed beta within 12 to 18 months, or open beta. Sorry.
I think those are pretty good statements. I mean, Poro, you have a little bit of knowledge with game development stuff. What do you think? I mean, this is a totally new process, but what are your thoughts as far as, the game development timeline for EverQuest Next and what we could see this year by August?
I don't think I'm necessarily more qualified than anyone else to speculate on what the development timeline would be like and when we should be able to see different things.
Poro, I think you're more qualified to talk on all of this about anything, honestly. You're just...
Not true.
I would believe that I am more qualified on this specific subject.
Well, I love Poro, and I just want to express my love for Poro. Nero, why you gotta step on my love, man? Why you gotta step on my love?
Because I've developed games, and Poro's just getting into developing games.
Yeah, but Poro has an H1Z1 hat on.
That's why I was gonna end with you, Neuro. Gosh, you guys
Poro.
ruined
So
it.
see,
Okay,
Poro has an H1Z1 hat on.
Go.
That's a game that's closer to alpha than your hat's game. So technically, she's closer to alpha than you are, Neuro, by facts. I just lawyered.
I think my hat says EverQuest Next Alpha or EverQuest Next Landmark on it, rather.
Damn it! I'm just fucking around.
Anyway, I would speculate that we're not going to have something we can actually play before the end of the year. That is just my guess. It seems like... Well, they've already said they're not going to give it to us at an early stage as Landmark was, which I guess we wouldn't expect for that type of game anyway. So I think for the amount of stuff they want to do, it's going to be a while to do it, which I'm fine with. So I think SOE Live, I don't think they're going to downplay EverQuest Next, but they're going to tell us a lot more stuff about it and like get hyped. And maybe they'll tell us then like when some kind of early access or closed beta thing will happen, if that's going to happen. And if it's not, maybe they'll tell us when it's going to be released-ish.
I hope so.
I feel like they have to make it huge. They can't downplay it, or people are going to lose. They're going to lose a lot of credibility, and they're going to lose a lot of momentum with it if they try to downplay it again.
I don't remember who specifically made the quote, but somebody had said that
Gandhi.
I think it was Jeff Butler, that we're going to start getting really sick of EverQuest Next news over the course of the year, that they're going to be giving us so much that we're like, oh, please just stop, give us the game. So I'm guessing if that's actually the goal, that's going to ramp up to a major announcement, possibly playing as well at SOE Live. It does seem like this SOE Live, the main focus is going to be EverQuest Next, H1Z1, and PlanetSide 2 on PlayStation 4 off on the fringes. And that's going to be the main focuses this year.
And I feel like as they were planning SOE Live 2014, their long-term goal was to have something ready for EQN at SOE Live 2015, or we wouldn't have had EQN items in our little gift bags, like their in-game stuff. They wouldn't have had that if their long-term goal wasn't to have EQN at 2015. They would have just put it off till next year.
I agree. I feel like this last, the SOE Live that we were at this previous year, without any experience of a prior SOE Live event, but I feel like this one was this moment where, like they're talking about Everquest and Everquest 2 and kind of paying their respects everywhere, doing to all of the games that are currently out, but I really feel like, this new SOE Live would have to kind of moving on into the future, because really the MMOs that what they're trying to do with EverQuest Next is kind of gonna almost wipe out some of their past games, really, if you think about it. If EverQuest Next really succeeds, you're gonna see the player base of EverQuest and EverQuest 2 decrease. They're gonna take away from their own fans in that respect, so you wonder if they're maybe looking at an eventual server closing of these games in the future over the next couple of years. So I would see them, focusing on all these new type, dynamic MMOs with H1Z1, a lot of player-generated content where players are the content for each other, which is, PlanetSide 2 is technically that. They don't really create content for that game. The players are the content for each other. And the same goes with H1Z1 and, eventually Landmark and EverQuest Next. It's this transition into a new type of game format, and I really expect to see the games of the old format not get as much love. So I totally agree with Neuro in this instance that, regardless of what they show about EverQuest Next, we're going to see, this new focus on a new type of game format, the newer titles, as opposed to, they'll still pay their homages to the old, the old franchises and stuff, but I don't think it's going to be, I think it's going to be, a new era for SOE, which is interesting because I'm wondering why they, named last year the year of EverQuest when I don't know, that's kind of why I titled this episode slightly too. Like, I think this year is the real year of EverQuest. But there was the 10 and 15 year anniversary, so that was probably why. But
yeah, I think that was the driving marketing decision there. Although we do know that I feel like they didn't even know what to expect last year from EverQuest Next, right? Like, they've totally been playing like I don't want to say dumb because that sounds rude, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like, they've just been like, because they actually were oblivious. Like, we don't know how far we're going to get. We don't know how the systems are going to play out. We don't know how Landmark Beta is going to go, how people are going to influence the decisions that we're going to want to make for EverQuest Next and the building structure. I mean, right? I remember, I think it was with you. I know I went with you, Vel, but I think when Vel and I went to visit their studio, I believe they had pictures of like what they had already started working on a long time ago for EverQuest Next. And then they said that they were going to kind of start to redo everything because they found new ways to make it better, if I'm not mistaken. Is that something that happened, or is that in my dreams at night?
It's the same thing they did with H1Z1.
Okay, so it's not too out of the question then. But I feel like maybe even if they planned it to be the year of EverQuest Next, and they thought they would give out more content for EverQuest Next last year, they probably just didn't even expect that it would have to be pushed back so far as it has been.
Yeah. Oh, and I found the official line. I posted it in chat there. I looked it up on the SOE Live website. EQ Next. Next players will receive something for attending SOE Live 2014 to be announced. We have no idea what it's going to be. It's something.
It's a pin. It's going to be a
Maybe
pin.
it'll be like the sign that we have in Landmark, because there's going to be like player housing or something, and you can put the little signpost outside your house and gloat to everyone that you were there.
Is everybody here going to SOE Live next year?
This
I
year?
want to.
This
I'm
year?
planning
This
that.
year, yeah.
Woot!
That could be. It's tough. Like, you wonder it really depends on how much they're really showing us. Because I don't know, I think towards the end of last year we talked about, like I brought up the conspiracy theories of, the original Landmark time lapses where they showed these different environments that we don't even see in Landmark right now. Makes you wonder how much they already have done. So, I think one way or another this year's SOE Live is going to be full of surprises. Whether it's crazy. I don't really know. I'm so torn between two different, mindsets on this thing.
It's possible that they've been holding back this whole time just so they could give us the whole dump of information, within the, because that's what they're trying to do, is that they're trying to hype it up as much as possible. If you spread out all the information over the last 2 years, it's not going to be as hard hitting as if you spread out, or if you give everybody information over 7 months, and by the time you get to SOE Live, everyone's like, EverQuest next.
By the way, guys, we definitely need to do we didn't do it last year because I don't even think we were around at this time, but we need to do a Theory Forge panel at SOE, obviously. Yeah. A live Theory Forge.
Well, yeah. Nice. I mean, the whole story for Theory Forge starting was that, a bunch of us met each other at SOE Live 2014, and it's like, one thing led to another. It's like, a few different people wanted to start shows with a few different people. It's like, hell, everybody, let's all just jump in and do a show together.
So, we all friends.
Yeah, I don't know how it lines up, but our 1 year anniversary is in the end of August, and depending on when they do SOE Live, so we might scoot up our anniversary show to happen from SOE Live, or we might do it directly following. But that's definitely something that was the reason this show came to be, and we definitely are going to have big plans for that show when the next event comes up this year, especially during and after. So yeah, so I guess Gio just gave a little bit of a teaser. Yes, we do have big plans on this show for SOE Live, so keep watching, keep hanging around with us and listening to our crazy crackpot theories and whatever else. So, but we are at our normal kind of closing time. I didn't see a ton of questions popping up in chat, and I know we didn't really ask for a bunch. This was kind of like more of a theory crafting episode, so I don't think we're gonna go with a Q&A session this week, but we'll definitely plan for more of that next week, because I'm sure a lot of people, will have questions, and it's gonna be the week before they do the next patch for Landmark, and we might have a lot to talk about as far as interacting with the chat and seeing what everybody's hoping for, or workshop show stuff. So, but anyways, I guess we'll kind of just go around and do our circular, farewells. Everybody, spend as much time as you want, talking about what you've got coming up this week, in your own streams, your own personal media, or different things like that. So we will start off with Krem, and we will move around in the counterclockwise direction back around to me. So
cool. If you want to let me go last, then because I'm gonna be streaming still. So
okay, then we'll go Krem, Poro, Neuro, Geo, me. Remember that.
Do you just go counterclockwise? It's okay.
Oh yeah, Krem, go ahead.
All right. Well, of course, I'm Kremchek, and like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm a full-time streamer. Next week, I have some craziness going on. Myself, my wife, and my cousin, who have all hung out in my channel before, we'll be streaming H1Z1 for 96 hours straight. That's going to be Thursday through Sunday. Going to be doing a bunch of game giveaways. If I can get it together, I'm going to try to do a game giveaway an hour, and that's not going to be like an H1Z1 type game. That's going to be like a crappy Steam game, but it's still free, so shut up and take my free game. And so that's going to be really fun, and you should click me and follow me and come watch and join the party. It's going to be awesome.
Don't click Kremchek. You don't want to know the smells that it makes.
Click me.
In real life. I mean, you can click them on Twitch, but don't click them in real life.
Click me in real life as well. Gio clicked me in real life in Vegas. He knows.
We're not supposed to talk about that, bro.
How did that happen under my watch? He was sharing a room with me, and I saw no clicking except.
Oh, it was in the hard bar. It was in the hard bar.
Dude, ain't nobody messing with my clicks.
That's why you hang out on my channel now. we click.
For sure. So just to give you guys an idea, obviously today the stream was on my channel, and you guys probably haven't seen me in a while if you are a viewer of my channel or Friday Night Fight Club. I'm currently dealing with a lot of real life stuff. Plus, I got a new job, and I'm making some changes to the live stream. So you guys will definitely be seeing those start to play out over the next couple of weeks. With that being said, though, you can find me doing whatever. I hang out in Kremchek's channel a lot, so you can come hang out with me there. Or I play some League of Legends once in a while, so you can hop on League and get in a game with me if you want. Or we're gonna continue. We're like tentatively putting off Friday Night Fight Club because of how many bugs there are right now. And things are just really, really insane. We've observed, we've been told by the people, Fugazi, Albria, or Fugazi had told us that Albria and Josie K, a lot of these like everyday PvPers, coffee tea PvP, that there's like a lot of bugs going. So, but just to give you guys like an idea really quick, the 17th, I'm getting a new laptop so that I can do a dual streaming PC setup. And from that laptop, I will be able to stream Landmark again at 1080p, and that makes me a little bit, insert adjective here. All right, so on that note, stinky, sure. On that note, Neuro, go ahead and do you do?
I just don't know why you'd use a laptop for streaming. Desktop parts are just so much cheaper and easier to maintain. But hey.
I didn't pay for it. It was the company that I'm working for is getting it's for me as a gift.
A company laptop. Well then,
We've all seen that he likes streaming from his bed. Also,
yes, that's true. We have
There's
seen
no
that.
better place, really.
I don't know. I'd rather be sitting than it would be really weird unless I have the monitor like over my bed and it's big enough that the resolution doesn't get degraded from the distance. Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I guess a trackball, holding my hand up for a trackball, would be kind of weird, or having it next to me would be kind of weird. I don't know. I'll sit and I'll stand, but I don't know if I'll lay down and play games.
You just need Tony Stark's like hologram movement design thing. That's what you really need.
Yeah, I suppose. Or actually, didn't that come from Minority Report initially?
Originally, yeah, they kind of. I'm sure it came way earlier than that, but yeah, that was probably the big mainstream one of it.
So yeah, what I'm actually up to, other than staring at my cat rolling around by the door waiting for me to let him out, is all sorts of stuff. I've been actually streaming a lot of Might and Magic 6 recently. It's partying like it's 1998, and actually the funny thing, if you look at the title screen for that versus that painting we have right there, it's kind of the same thing with less characters. Kind of sexy female character, a bunch of people fighting, and a dragon in the middle. So I'm not gonna say that they ripped off that initial style with the 1999 EverQuest Next painting, but I would say that there was some influence from the Might and Magic series. It's a game from 1998 that still holds up and is better than a lot of today's modern games being made. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. That's just something I've been doing, not on any official time. What I am going to be doing probably in about an hour is getting on with the Who's Gaming Now channel with some Binding of Isaac, because we just got partnered on there. And that Kremchek, by the way, is also part of the Who's Gaming Now network. And yeah, we do all sorts of awesome stuff. It's pretty cool, fun times. Other than that, live feature rant, dead feature rant. We've got content and creations on Saturday from 1-5 p.m. Cat's trying to bug me real hardcore now. So yeah, all sorts of stuff going on, and of course Theory Forge. And I want to put a little shout out, Coffee Tea PvP. I saw him in chat here. He was actually on the last episode of Live Feature Rant. Good times, good dude. Definitely give him a follow and check his stuff out. We need to support our Landmark streamers, and he definitely does a good job of it.
Speaking of Landmark streamers, Poro, I don't know how much you're doing of that, but give us your spiel. Was I muted? Was I not?
No.
Poro muted?
That's her spiel. That was it. No, she typed it out in in chat.
Sorry, people are talking to me. One of my friends just got home, and things are kind of nuts.
Should make him tell everybody your spiel.
Poro is a streamer of Landmark occasionally. She did it a lot before. She gets on from time to time, and her Twitch is Poro Sorceress. But more than anything, Poro is like a Twitter maniac. I think when we were at SOE Live, she tweeted out more than anyone combined, including the developers, about everything. So
I'm pretty sure that she was tweeting before they were talking.
Yeah, it was.
Because I would like get the tweet and I'd be like, dude, they're just saying this and I'm already reading it.
I had foreknowledge, obviously.
Yes, it was very amazing. So definitely, if you are a fan of this show and this, you know, franchise of games, and you want to know about the show, follow her. She, you know, tracks everything as good as anybody out there. So give her some love in that way. And for myself, I am doing 10-ton hammer more than EverQuest, or more than EQ hammer now a little bit. I kind of try to balance both, but there's different changes going on with 10-ton hammer, so we might be seeing EQ hammer shift into something else. Not sure yet. It's still kind of in this limbo, this weird limbo, so you can check it. There will be things there. Definitely go see. Make my writing there not useless and, and unseen, but yeah, 10-ton hammer, I've got my column going there, and I write on it twice a week. It's usually Tuesday, Friday type thing, so that you get to see 2 different articles a week, hang around for half the week. So check that out there. And then other than that, I mean, for games, I've been playing a ton of Windward, which is a really obscure naval combat real-time action game.
If by obscure you mean awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
The ratings are extremely high on it, and I mean, I had it for a week and put in 60 hours. I mean, like literally when I wasn't doing family stuff and stuff, I was playing the crap out of it. So it's,
you know how awesome the game is. Velik was trolling the developer on his own server while he was trying to test bugs, and pissed him off to the point where the developer started insta-jibbing him with dev tools. It's like, well, that's what you get for trying to pirate me.
yeah, I got leveled up and I was having a lot of fun. I finally got my black flag. I was like, I'm gonna become a pirate. So I went into the dev server where the only person that was on was like the developer, and one other person I just ran around killing him, and he started one-shotting me with admin powers. I was like, what is this? So yeah, it's a fun game. You guys should, if you're looking for something fun to check out, I'm in that game pretty often, so you guys might see me there. Other than that though, I bounce around. You know, I'm always following Landmark and EverQuest Next, so that's really it for me. So does anybody have anything else, any parting thoughts before we bid adieu to our lovely audience?
Yeah, actually, we got to give a little bit of love to our 2 other people that have been manning chat here. So we have Diggs. He is one of our regulars who has recently joined the team. He is one of the awesome people that just beats the hell out of the forums. He is on there constantly. He is one of the most knowledgeable people that uses the forums here. And we also have...
You can't thank him enough for that, by the way.
Yeah, he is pretty awesome.
He's in the trenches, for real.
On top of that, we also have... actually, we have 2 other people. We have Noodlecats here as well, if I'm not mistaken, who is also one of our recent regulars to join the team. Very, very awesome. Another streamer. Definitely give her a follow if you aren't already. That's Noodlecat with an underscore at the end, just to make sure you don't get a mistake there. And yeah, tune in for sure. And then the last person to mention here is Phantomex, who he's the guy running EQ Nexus these days, and you know, has a little bit of some other stuff going. So thank you all very much for rocking the chat here. Really appreciate it. And all of you lovely folks in chat, thank you all very much for coming through. We really appreciate it. Back to you, Velix.
Yeah, that's really going to tie it up. I mean, I guess the only other person we didn't mention is Sog, or @SirSog on Twitter. He's our other kind of regular host, and you know, between the 8 of us, we managed to put one of these crazy shows together every week, and we will be here again next Friday, same place, same time. It might be on, actually it'll be on either Neuro's channel or maybe Sog's. So one of those 2 channels, plan to see it next week, but either way, we'll be hosting each other, so it will be everywhere we can possibly make it at all times. And of course, our YouTube channel, Neuro has, where we've got a compilation of all of our episodes up till now in a giant playlist. So if you have days of your life you want to commit to hearing our crazy theories, you can do so there. And thanks for coming, thanks for watching, and we will see you all again next week. Ta-ta, everybody.
See you later, baby girls.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.